wanted to let everybody know that we are currently having some audio issues. The receivers on Zooms can still hear us, but it's coming to my computer from my computer. We have our minute taker on Zoom, so I just want to let you guys know that when you are speaking, please to speak loudly so she can record everything. Other than that, I think we should be good to go. So, Mr. Chair, whenever you are ready.
Thank you, Ms. Abigail. Good evening, everybody. My name is Corey Bond. I am the current chair of the Ward 4 NAB for the city of Reno. On behalf of my members, welcome. So I would ask if you will all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ms. Megan, would you lead us, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Megan. Okay, Ms. Abigail, if you would do the roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. All right. Mr. Harvey, absent at this time. Ms. Kelly, absent at this time. Ms. Luck, absent at this time. Mr. White, Mr. Simmons, absent at this time. Mr. Briscoe.
Present.
Thank you. Mr. Bond,
Present.
Mr. Souther, Ms. Egan, and then council liaison, Councilmember Ebert. Perfect. And myself, staff liaison, Abby Mayorga, present. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum of the Ward 4 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Thank you, Abigail. Okay, following my agenda, I'm going to open it to public comment. If anyone would like to make public comment, we ask that you keep it at 3 minutes. You can either come here or stand up from your seat, whichever you're more comfortable with. So if there's anybody that would like to make comments, feel free.
Mr. Chair, we received 2 public commenters, and I do request that you come up to the podium again for audio issues.
That's right. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I
thank you.
forgot that. Sorry.
No problem. First up is Tom Hillestead. Thank you, Tom.
Good looking shirt. What's that? Good looking shirt. I'm terrible at this, but anyway, my wife and I have lived here 7 years. And I got a concern about the safety of the streets.
Mr. Hill, excuse me, sir, if you'll identify yourself for the record. please.
Okay, yes. My name's Tom Hillestead. I live at 1011 University Place. You know, like I said, I got a concern about the safety of the streets. 7 years we've been here and Reno's growing, Sparks is. But I really don't see much improvement on the streets. And I'm just not talking about the potholes from this terrible long winter we've had. I work part-time. I travel some streets for my job. I have grandkids here. I travel to their place. And I don't know if it's the street department in Reno's not getting enough money from the city, or if the staff is not trained properly to do it, or if the equipment, they don't have the proper equipment to do it. I don't know. I'm going to say this. I think the streets in the city of Reno are falling behind. And when you postpone doing maintenance on a street, it only gets worse. It doesn't get better to take action and put some money into it. If they don't know what they're doing, the staff doesn't know what they're doing, maybe talk to an engineering department for some help or something. But today I drive down South Virginia and cars are swerving the potholes, and just, you know, vehicles have bigger mirrors on them now. It's really close, you guys. And another issue about the streets, the pedestrian crossings. I don't know. People aren't obeying the rules of the road, the streets. They don't cross where the little white blocks crossing marks are. they'll dodge a car, come out 100 feet from that crossing. I don't know if common sense should come to play here, but it seems like it's getting worse every week. Maybe the city could do a campaign on how to cross the street. I don't know, it's too simple. To me, it's simple, but I'm gonna go back to safety. Something's got to get done here, folks. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Next up, we have Shelby Diade. CD. Thank you.
I'll try to speak up. I have a quiet voice, but my name's Shelby Dede, and I'm also here over concerns on safety of the streets, but from a little different respect or angle. I'm concerned about the increased motorcycles, dirt bikes, side by sides, et cetera, whatever you want to call them. And just the behavior of the individuals that are driving them in the neighborhoods. Speeding, reckless driving, stunts, things like that. I've called the sheriff's office multiple times. They don't seem to respond. It's to the point where I feel like my home is built in the middle of a race car track with all the excessive children or adults driving around. So it's quite a concern. I think it's a safety issue, and I would like to see increased patrols in the area to kind of deter behavior of that sort, and or additional signage posting. The church in the neighborhood bought one of those or rented one of the speed things where you drive by and you can see how fast you're going. And that seemed to help a little bit. I think they posted signs along the walking trails that motorized vehicles were not allowed. After that happened, it seemed to stop the behavior for a short time period, but it's back again. And I'm concerned with the nicer weather right around the corner that it's just going to continue to get worse. So, thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Would anyone else like to give public comment? Who is not registered? No one on Zoom, Mr. Chair? Perfect.
All right, and I'm going to go down to A4, which is approval of the agenda, correct?
Correct, Mr. Chair. With that being said, I do want to note that there has been a change to the agenda, particularly in regards to B.3.2, LDC 230052. They have notified staff that they are making changes to their application and will not be present to this NAB. So this will just change their deadline to planning and everything. So they'll come back at a later date. Additionally, I don't see any officers in uniform, RPD. They did let me know that they were going to try and make it, but I think they are held up at an emergency. So I would like to pull B1 as well. And then if there are any questions in regards to the quarterly update, which is in the packet for the members, for the public, it is on the desk by the public agenda. If you have any questions, please feel free to email them to me or let me know what you would like to hear from RPD, and they will be back for the next quarter, or I can get a written statement for them for our next meeting in regards to the updates that you guys are concerned about. Perfect.
Removing B1 and B3.2, I move to approve the agenda.
All right, approval by Mr. John.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I'm off to a bad start again this meeting. You know, there's only 5 of us here, but anyway, John Briscoe.
Protocol is protocol,
Yeah.
Mr. Briscoe. Okay, motion by Mr. Briscoe. Second, anybody?
John White seconds.
Okay,
Thank you.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No opposition. Very good. A5, approval of the minutes. Again, I'm seeking a motion.
Jerry Sauter with a motion to approve for the minutes.
Okay, second.
John White seconds.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No.
Abstain, I wasn't present. I wasn't present, so I'm abstaining.
Okay. All right. We are at A6, Ms. Abigail. I believe that's.
Miss Councilmember Ebert, council liaison. Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
Nothing to report at this time. We've mostly just been going over budget at city council for the last 2 meetings. And also placemaking study that we're under review for downtown. Just kind of reviewing studies for micro mobility lanes and different placemaking areas in the downtown corridor area and potential areas for new retail pop-up locations and things like that.
Okay. Corey Bond, for the record, I will tell you that I saw an interview you did on TV, so you represented us well, so thank you very much. So, okay, with that, Ms. Abigail, now I'm gonna flip flop and take it away, please.
Perfect. I do have two things that I would like to report on. First being that we have our spring community cleanups that go throughout the city of Reno. The one for Ward 4 specifically is slated for June 10th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Dorothy McAlden Park, and that is sponsored by Councilmember Ebert. At this community cleanup, you'll be able to discard of excess waste, e-waste, hazardous waste at no cost. It is first come, first serve, so please tell your neighbors. We have one in the spring, but we also will be having one in the fall. We do have a website up at the City of Reno. It's City of Reno Community Cleanups, and you'll be able to see all the dates. So additionally, if you can't make it to the Ward 4 one specifically, you are more than welcome to go to the other wards. So we are just taking all of those at no cost. I just wanted to put that out there. Again, that's June 10th, Saturday, June 10th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Dorothy McAlden's Park. McAlinden, thank you. Additionally, one great thing that I think is coming to our council meeting next Wednesday is Councilmember Ebert is working on her ARPA project, and she has allocated her monies to go to safety. I know that's been a very common theme today, and we wanted to share with you her work along with Carrie Koski, our city engineer, in putting into place beacons, the beacons of hope. I call them beacons of hope, but they are safety beacons, essentially school flashers that will be going in the areas, the high populated, high traffic areas around these specific schools, Desert Heights, that elementary school, Coral Academy in the area. The exact location will be determined, and then once that gets approved at council, we'll be able to move forward and we'll get those in place in the valleys, which is very exciting. Not to flex for Ward 4, but I think we are missing only one, and then all the schools in Ward 4 will have these safety features, which are the flashers, which is really exciting. And you can see this on the packet. Again, it's there located, and same for you members, it's in your packet. Just for more information, feel free to reach out to me and we can get you that. So, and that's all I have to report.
Bypass B1 and go ahead and move on to B2. Take it away, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. One Peter Sweet.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Video? No. What was it?
I think it's the slide is in this one. I think you have to do go to new share.
Mhm. That's rude.
How do you stop
I don't
sharing?
remember.
Oh, stop sharing
Mhm.
and then go back to Zoom. Share screen.
Mhm.
And then that one. Mhm. And share.
Sure.
And then display settings. Duplicate.
Nice.
Gotta go with you. So you want to go to the next slide?
Actually. Here you are. And a pointer. Yes. Sometimes, not always.
I see the arrow, right?
Yes,
In theory.
in theory.
In theory.
But again, technology hasn't been nice to us today.
You remember how to do this, Mr. Nelson. You're a pro at this.
All right, thanks, everyone. My name is Paul Nelson. I'm the Government Affairs Officer at RTC Washoe. Thanks for inviting us. I also have one of our engineers, one of our experts. His name is Jeff Wilbrecht. So if there's any questions at the end, and I don't know the answer, I'm sure that he will know. So as you guys know, we're out here to discuss some of the transportation issues out here in the North Valley. You guys deal with them on a daily basis. There's three things that we really do at the RTC. One of them is we're the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We do the engineering of the roads. And then we also have public transportation. So we'll start.
We can advance it for you. I'm sorry.
All right, so we'll start with the public transportation in the North Valleys. RTC provides two different options. We've got the RTC Route 7, and that goes from the 4th Street Station downtown Reno all the way up to Stead. And you can get on and off at different stops along the way, 4th Street Station to North Virginia Street at Bonanza Square, Stead Boulevard and Silver Lake Road, and Moya Boulevard between Echo and Lear. And then obviously that only takes care of one corridor. So what we've done is we've also added RTC Flex Ride, and that's in the areas there you see on the map there within the blue boundaries. That's our curbside to curbside transit service, and it kind of operates similar to a ride share like Uber or Lyft. So all you got to do is to schedule a ride is go to the transit app, or you can call an RTC dispatcher and you'll expect your ride to show up at the closest location within about 8 to 15 minutes. One thing I do want to point out is the flex rides need to go in the boundaries. So if you want to go from the North Valley, say to downtown Reno, you'll have to have the flex ride drop you off at the bus stop, and then you'll hop on the ride and then go on down. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we recognize is that this is one of the fastest growing areas in our region. And so in 2017, the RTC conducted a multimodal transportation study. And that really, it plans for the next 30 years of growth that's going to happen out here in the North Valleys. Next slide. The top priority of that study is obviously safety. And we've heard a few people mention the safety that they're concerned about in this area. One of them is the high number of crashes, looking at intersections that have a high number of crashes. It also looks at areas to make pedestrian crossing improvements. It also looks at traffic congestion now and in the future, and the improvements that we can make. The ways to do that are by improving operations, expanding roadway capacity, so doing things like adding lanes, and expanding multimodal infrastructure that works for all modes of transportation, not just cars. We also have, we've also worked with NDOT to find ways to improve Highway 395. Next slide, please. Actually, is there a power button on here that I need to hit? Is that why it's not working?
It says it's on. It's probably the battery dead.
Okay. So at the RTC, we've got the Regional Transportation Plan, the RTP, and that is basically a whole bunch of projects that we've got lined up for the next 20 years. And one of the things that we've noticed with the growth that's been happening out here is we've had to reprioritize now and then. So we've pushed a lot of projects forward out here in the north. So as I mentioned, this goes out at least 20 years. If you look at the yellow here, these are projects that we're really focused on adding capacity. So Sky Vista Parkway, that's under construction. Phase 1 of Lemon Drive, we finished last year, and phase 2 should be starting up here just hopefully in the next couple of years. That's phase 2 is that long yellow line right there. The green line there is US 395. NDOT's expected to start that widening project either this spring or in the summer. The dotted orange line is North Virginia Street, and we're starting the final design of that this year. And then the interchange on the left over there in the pinkish purple right there, that all depends on some of the development that's planned out there in the Cold Springs area. Next slide, please. Now we look at from 2026 to 2030, what some of the projects can be. And you can see there's a whole lot more yellow out there, and that's because we're expecting more growth. So we're expecting that we're going to have to add capacity to our roadways. So if you look at those yellow roads, they include North Virginia Street, North Hills Boulevard, and Buck Drive, and Military Road. And we do want to thank Councilwoman Ebert for helping us push that project forward. Moya Boulevard and Red Rock Road depend on development in those areas. Now, if you look at the green line over there, that's another phase of NDOT's US 395 project. That's fully funded up to STED. Farther to the south, the red dotted line on 395 is under design. And in the blue, we have El Rancho and North Virginia Street. Those are prioritized for multimodal improvements. Next slide, please. Now we're looking even farther ahead. So the next 25 years, almost 30 years, from 2031 to 2050. You can see how much yellow there is on this too. That's because we're expecting continual growth over the next 30 years or so. So all these streets will need to have some capacity. That green down there is down there in the right-hand corner. That's another expansion of 395 from Parr Boulevard to Clear Acre. And we're looking at more improvements on 395 from Stead Boulevard up to Red Rock Road. Again, a lot of this depends on the growth. So that includes that, I don't know if you can tell, it was a green arrow on mine, but that arrow up there on the right side, that could be a connection between Spanish Springs and the North Valleys. Next slide, please. Now, some of the recently completed projects that we've got that have been completed, a significant one was the Lemon Drive Segment 1 project that included the diverging diamond interchange and improvements for pedestrians and cyclists, the Golden Valley and Beckworth Signal, and the Golden Valley Road rehabilitation over on the left. All the ones over there in the yellow highlights, those are the ones that we're talking about right now. We also made improvements to the North Virginia Street and Panther Drive intersection and completed the Newport Lane rehabilitation. NDOT finished its first phase of 395 with the Parr Boulevard overpass. And the projects in green, those are in design, and the one in blue is under construction. Next slide. And that one that's under construction is Sky Vista. If you look at that picture on the left, that's looking to the northwest, and you can see all the dirt there that's been moved around. There's a lot of development happening. And the plan there is to widen that road from 2 lanes to 4. It's going to include wide sidewalks for better mobility for pedestrians. And then there's also going to have a roundabout that'll enter into the North Valleys Regional Park. Next phase, or next slide. Now, if you want to take a closer look at that, you can see the outline of where that goes. This is a $18 million investment along this corridor. It'll include the 2 lanes that I mentioned, the roundabout up there by the park, and the sidewalks. So that one there under construction, and I think that'll be completed by the end of the summer, right, Jeff? All right, next slide, please. Lemon Drive improvements and resiliency project. This is a big one that we're really focusing on because obviously you guys that live out here have seen the issues from the flooding that happened 5 or 6 years ago. And we're trying to make this roadway more resilient when that happens again. It'll reconstruct 3.7 miles of Lemon Drive between Fleetwood Drive and Ramsey Way. And it'll raise the roadway above that 100-year floodplain of Swan Lake. And to do that, we plan on moving the alignment of the road. You can see where the current alignment is over there in the blue, it looks like. And then the new alignment is going to go closer to the lake and it's going to follow the natural terrain so that it'll be elevated already with that natural berm that's there. Once again, safety is a major feature for all modes of transportation. So one of the plans is to include the construction of a multi-use path. And the RTC board identified this as one of our top 6 federal priorities. And we actually applied for a $25 million grant, a raised grant, to hopefully secure some funding for that. We hope to learn more about that by the summertime if we were successful in that grant application. Next slide. And Pyramid Highway project. You guys might be wondering why I'm showing you the Pyramid Highway project. And that's because there's many phases to it, you can see. But if you look over there at the bottom, the green, that's phase 3. And the plan there is to extend Disc Drive across all the way over to US 395. So that'll add one more connection from Pyramid Highway over to US 395. We just don't have a whole lot of east and west connections up in this area. And we think that that could help, give people a shortcut, maybe relieve some of the traffic congestion. That purple line down there on the south end, that's the first phase. And NDOT is planning on breaking ground on that May 1st. So that'll get underway. And then the second phase is that red line that goes out there on Disc Drive. And if you look just a little bit farther up, you can see the, I think this is Plan E, the little tab that sticks at the little tiny overpass up there at Sparks Boulevard and Highland Ranch Road. A little bit farther down where the green connects to the
Oh, right here. This
right
one?
there.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a flyover. And that was also one of the projects identified by the RTC board that will be one of our top 6 federal priorities too. And that's really because there's going to be a lot of development right out there, and it'll help smooth out some of the traffic congestion that's happening out there on Pyramid Highway. Next slide. And that's about all I've got. One thing that I do want to point out also is when we're talking about all these projects, even if we had all the money in the world right now and we had all of the construction crews in place that could do all these projects, we still wouldn't be able to do them all at the same time, because if you think about all the construction projects that we have planned out here and we did them all at the same time, it would really paralyze traffic. So we got to be strategic about when we do each project. We're working with NDOT to make sure that we're doing projects that aren't interfering with the traffic on their projects. So it's really a song and dance when it comes to getting all these transportation projects done. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nelson.
No,
Okay, thank you.
I thought you were dismissing it.
No. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, for your time. I will bring questions to the dais.
I'm Jared Sauber. I've lived up here since 9 years now, but I've lived in Reno since 2004. I went to all the original meetings regarding Spaghetti Bowl. I've been attending meetings, but we've not yet had a chance to have NDOT speak to us. So I'd like to hear from the cohesive side of RTC. The 395 improvements that are happening. Let me just step back and say this. 2 days ago, we had snow, and it took me 2 hours to drive from Red Rock to Plum Lane. And normally it's a 20-minute commute. And it was kind of disappointing to know that that was the worst travel time we've had all winter with all the blizzards that we've had in snow. What in the RTC plan allows for smart travel to allow for better flow of traffic when we have these kind of experiences? That's my first question.
I don't know particularly in the North Valleys, but we do have a program that we're looking at that it'll communicate with your phone basically. So like if there is kind of like the Waze app. So if there is some kind of an incident that happens on the roadway, that this will tell you, hey, take this other route instead. Obviously up here, you don't really have any other routes. So you're kind of stuck, but that's something that we're working on over there in the Sparks area, especially, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I can maybe just briefly expand on it. So what he's talking about is kind of a intelligent transportation system.
Yeah.
And other jurisdictions, and Las Vegas is kind of an example that we're trying to map and mimic. It does take a lot of coordination between the city, RTC, and NDOT to kind of really merge all these things together. Because if you're on a local road and then with traffic there and you start deviating to another, like a regional road, and you deviate to an NDOT facility, we all need to talk and connect intelligently with fiber optic and computer systems so that it becomes seamless. Because what we don't want to do is have one signal deviate and then it just jams up a local road and then you have just further compounding problems. And so this is a action that I think the RTC board is looking to do in a more robust way. As Paul kind of mentioned, the Pyramid Highway is kind of a good test corridor for us because there's so many signals and there's just kind of the fundamentals of that road is a good kind of test corridor for us, that which we hope to then evolve throughout our entire community to allow facilitating when an event like that happens and people start going different ways, that the signal systems work and can operate with that increased traffic. I can talk in much more detail about it, but it's a simpler way to kind of think about it is a sporting event when everybody leaves Lawler. There's just this mass exodus. Having those signals in the transportation system is smart to then just allow green lights for people to exit. And so it's that kind of concept, but on our regional scale. And so it is a big process, a big undertaking, and we are starting that process.
So Google Maps took me down Moya to Lear to Military, and it took an hour and 40 minutes to get to the drive kind of thing almost. But the freeway was even slower. So like the question I have that I brought up before, like as we got right to Spaghetti Bowl, was I feel like Business 395 should be reversible lanes, that as we build 395, that there should be HOV or reversible HOV lanes. because of the land built, it's hard to put that middle together. But what I did see is that NDOT's not adding bridge capacity. So you have bottlenecking at Panther and Golden and Lemon because there's no lanes to allow better flow through. Yes, you're adding merge lanes in, but it's not happening at the right pace. And that's where our community feels like, honestly, it's not at the right pace.
And that's one thing too, you know, RTC really, we're looking at the transportation system regionally. And that's why we're really working with NDOT quite a bit because they're looking at the whole state. And sometimes they're not seeing the priorities that we're seeing. So we work with them and we let them know what some of the priorities are out here. So a lot of the projects that are going on, it really just takes communication and a lot of planning. And I know you guys have probably seen a lot of these plans. They take a lot of years to do. So things could change in the meantime too.
John White, I have a question about this Moya sewer work. Is this going to be similar to what we've done on Stead Boulevard? Same type of construction?
You can answer that.
So similar in the sense of,
Your name, sir?
I'm sorry, Khalil Wilson, assistant, Director of Public Works. So the Moya sewer work that will happen will go in front of the roadway project that would happen on Moya Boulevard. It would be upsizing the pipes from smaller diameter to larger diameter to allow for future growth.
So I was involved with, I was off Stead Boulevard, I've seen all that. And they also had, when they put the new lift station in, how they worked on the north side of Lear. But I use Lear and Moya and Lear a lot. And I was just wondering what I'd be running into, but similar to what Stead Boulevard had, you maintain a lane, 2 lanes open.
Okay, first of all, I'm gonna Corey Vaughn for the record. First of all, folks, I'm in charge. I will take care of the meeting. Please let me do that. Second of all, to the audience, please remember to identify yourself so that we get it on public record. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Nelson? Once again,
Well, thank you, Kathleen Egan. You just brought up something that, sorry, I'll get back to my first question on Moya because that's my neighborhood as well. The truck traffic. So the issue that we have is that we have the warehouse is back there and the truck traffic, when you have one lane back and forth. So between Red Rock and Lear and Moya, you only have 2 lanes right now, and we have the school zone right there. So we have a lot of traffic for the schools. Where are you redirecting those trucks? For the warehouse, because where is the traffic going to go? Well, you're going to have it blocked in that one lane.
Are you talking about just the normal traffic? That we're
Right.
talking about, not construction, just the normal traffic?
And while you're doing construction, you're saying it's a one lane, it's already just a one lane either side. So now you only have 2 exits on one side. So when you plan these projects, where's the traffic gonna go?
So when we,
Carrie.
Carrie Costi, city engineer, director of public works, city engineer, for the city of Reno. And, so when we plan those projects, what we do is we put, phasing plans together. So the engineering team, what they do is they look at, circulation routes for not only the construction traffic, but they also look at what the circulation routes are for the public. Sometimes what happens is if we get into a situation where there's maybe there's a benefit to, reducing all of the traffic or closing down the traffic on one lane, and it makes the project go a lot faster because the contractor can get in and they can work multiple shifts and they can do it more quickly. But typically, I would say we try to maintain the traffic each direction whenever we can. If we can't, then we have to set aside, detour routes and that sort of thing. Is that it?
Yeah, because there's only one light at
Yeah.
Moya and Red Rock. You got
Yeah.
one light, so everyone's backed up there and the trucks get backed up there. And when the trucks are backed up, sometimes they're even stuck in the middle of the light. So that's a huge concern of the planning about.
Yes. We do that in our planning process. We put together some phasing plans, especially in our sewer projects.
Because Stead Boulevard, the past few months has been a nightmare with literally people stuck in the middle of the intersection. And it is not planned well of exit and exit for businesses. And the school's right there, and literally people are stuck in the middle, the light turns red, and the whole intersection is stuck, is stuck. So that could use a little bit of planning. Thank you. So, I don't really have a question, but I have a comment for a lot of us in this room who were here years ago. Sky Vista. You are now stuck with the problem of a lot of money of widening that area and dealing with traffic. There are people here that were sitting on the NAB and the CAB and all these meetings. And we had developers in the room, and every single person from the development people, public comment, people on the NAB ask, so we've done a traffic study. We're very concerned. This is going to be high growth. Sky Vista, we have a park here. We have kids on bikes. We have families that walk across the street. And the developers, as they say every time, yes, we've done a traffic study. We're totally in line with the traffic study. NAB came back saying, we need a light. How are people going to cross from these apartments over to the park? They said, oh, we did a traffic study. We don't need a light. Well, how about some flashers? No, we did a traffic study. We don't expect that amount of traffic. We all knew, the public commenting knew, we all knew this is going to be a disaster that in the future is going to cost more money. So we have the opportunity. What we don't understand here is the planning commission and people involved in this. We knew we had a chance then for the developers to help kick in some money. They're building, there should be something in this development to widen it then, because we had all the construction, all the problems then. Help pay for that infrastructure. You want us to approve the development, then make the infrastructure happen at that time instead of how many years now later we are going through rebuilding that same roadway, widening it that everyone in this room and in the public knew needed to be happened then. And do we still get a light? And you heard we get a roundabout, don't get a light. So this is I'm speaking on behalf of other frustrated people. When they can see the common sense, and we have the developer right there in the room before the planning commission approves, before the council approves, get the variance, get the money, get the infrastructure, then instead of years later, and how much more money is it costing us taxpayers now to fix the problem. So I don't know where a question is there. I'm just doing a little venting. What we can do further, because every single meeting we have developers come in and we have suggestions. Well, have you done a traffic study? What about the traffic there? What about the new soccer place? We see there's a problem, but nothing we do seems to make a difference on these people on the planning commission and the council to make the decisions then to get the infrastructure then. So maybe you can help us what we can do better instead of just griping to our neighbors.
I know when it comes to the roundabouts, the studies show that those do decrease crashes and the severity of crashes because you have to slow down once you get towards those roundabouts. There's also less head-on collisions. Instead of having a light there won't be people running red lights, less T-bones, things like that. So that's where the roundabout will help out, rather than a light possibly. As for the additional lanes, I'm not really sure. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so my name is Jeff Overton with New England RTC. Specifically with the Sky Vista project, I actually thoroughly appreciate your guys' comments and questions. And I can tell you from the RTC side, when the developments come through, we look at them and end up being one-off type things, and it becomes hard to kind of see them as a bit larger aggregate. But on Sky Vista specifically, that project is fully funded with what's called RIF fees. So that's a regional road impact fee. And every single developer that comes in and builds a home or a commercial property or whatever it is, pays a regional road impact fee. It's kind of similar to sewer hookup fee, but essentially to pay for their offset of their impact to the regional road network. And so that project has been fully funded with those fees that directly compensate for related development impacts to that district.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you. So that's fully funded. But why is it fully funded and being built now? And it wasn't done 5 years ago when we first approved the development. That's what I'm saying, because we had road work then that all of us had to sit there. They did the wood work and they put in the sidewalks, they did the new roads. So that RIF money paid for that money then and our inconvenience. And now years later, you're actually widening it like they should have done in the first place. So it seems like there's money and planning and everyone's upset about something that do it in the first place. So don't know how we can get ahead of that, but it seems like that's a typical pattern that we see everywhere around. It's like they're ripping up the road again. Didn't they just work on it 3 years ago? So to the public, to have the public have confidence that there is actual planning and all the hard work you do behind the scenes, how can the public have confidence that money and planning is being, well spent? That's just what we see from our side.
Corey Bond for the record, and Paul, I don't know if this is for you or Mr. Jeff. I have a question, if there's gonna be a light out here at Buck, because since they opened this subdivision, you've got three-way traffic, and I've seen way too many close calls out there. And what I asked, and somebody said, oh, it's gonna be in future plans. So my question, Jeff and Paul, is just, is there any discussion? Because like I said, you've got people not knowing who's doing what, and it's too congested right now.
Yeah, short answer, so Jeff, short answer is yes, we're moving forward with that. I think it's, we're trying to get a designer set up right now. We formed it's called an intersection control evaluation for that area. Ensure that whatever intersection control we were gonna then design and construct were appropriate for the volumes of traffic and the kind of intricacies of what's going on there. So we perform that, it's done. A signal is what is recommended out of that. And so we have to move both design and construction of that.
Okay.
I don't have an exact number, it's gonna either get built in the 2024 timeframe or 2025.
Okay, so follow up on that, because as I'm sure you know, there was just a apartment complex for behind what used to be Scolari's and what have you along that road. And right now that's a 2-lane road, and that is just gonna, if that gets approved, which I understand planning commission did approve that, it's gonna cause even more problems. So I do appreciate that. And Corey Bond again. Terry, I do have a question for you later, but I can't discuss it now because it's not on my agenda. So if you could wait around if you have time, or just.
I can catch up with you.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else on my dais have any questions? Jared.
So Jared Souther again, speaking of the Sky Vista project. What I see is that the city approves, developments like the Lake and Lemon Valleys, those apartments, there's like 600 plus apartments and another phase coming. When I look at the widening as I travel that road, it encroaches so much against their gates, their fences, and it doesn't even seem like there's going to be width for a full sidewalk. And then you worry about the traffic flow in and out of their entrances and exits out of that complex and how that impacts traffic flow in that area. So again, speaking of hindsight, 2020, it feels like had we known there was going to be a widening, that they would have been told, by the way, we need to buy out or encroachment to allow for better traffic flow and prevent accidents happening in those bottleneck areas. The other thing I wanted to ask about was in regards to, I guess, phase 2 of the NDOT project, like Stead Boulevard and Red Rock. Is there plans for lights, or, I mean, because we see what happened in Lemon Valley, and it didn't really improve things with the diverging diamond. Trucks can't get up on it during winter traffic. There's been closures. What do we see happening at Stead Boulevard to improve that interchange?
That, I don't have that as NDOT, but maybe Jeff does.
So on a similar context, so we are currently performing an intersection control evaluation for Red Rock Road, I know for certain. And what's kind of coming out of that is most likely going to be signalized intersections. There's some problems with those overpasses in that the underlying part is so narrow. So there's just immediate limitations until you go to an effort of rebuilding the overall structure. So it's, we are working with that kind of those limitations of how do you provide a near-term relief that then can facilitate longer-term growth and all those types of things. So
Again, I wonder why NDOT did not invest in bridge structures as part of Golden Valley or putting lights in at the interchange. There's no mention of any lights coming to Golden Valley where it works really well.
So I know that we actually had a question earlier this week about Golden Valley. So signalizing Golden Valley intersection, I believe, and I don't want to speak on behalf of NDOT and just can tell you what I have heard and understand. is that signalization of Golden Valley interchange is included with that second phase project. But when they come through, that Golden Valley is the limit of their north phase, or I guess it's phase 1B, technically it's the first phase. They are looking at how to provide some sort of temporary signalized intersection at that location to facilitate the changes that project's going to develop.
Okay, folks, in the interest of time, I'm gonna curtail this so we can get on to our agenda. Paul, thank you very much for taking that. Thank you very much, sir. Any public comment? Seeing none, okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Okay, B3. Right,
Yes, Mr. Chair.
okay. Take it away, Captain.
Perfect.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if this said B3 or B1, my bad.
No, you're okay.
I'll try to speak louder.
No. Try not to speak as loud, not get the coaching voice going. For the record, Kenny Brown. Yeah, you do have enough, or you don't yet have it.
There
Sorry.
we go.
Nope, that's not.
B31 is Carson Lane abandonment.
It was B31.
Yes. Sorry.
Sorry, you looked at me.
I know. Sorry,
It's like-
guys.
I was gonna give the presentation.
I thought you guys switched.
Good evening. For the record, Ryan Sims, Axion Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant in this case. All this talk about needing more roads, and I'm here presenting getting rid of one. So we'll see how it goes. It's a tough crowd. Basically, this is an abandonment of a portion of Carson Lane. The site's generally west of 395 and north of Parr Boulevard, kind of behind the industrial stuff along Parr. Up, you can see the railroad tracks on the north side of this. It's an approximately a little over 13,000 square feet piece of City of Reno public right of way. Like I said, it goes from Orcrest Lane, you can see there on the southern side of it, and dead ends into railroad right of way.
That top one,
Oh, gotcha.
little red guy.
All right, so it disappeared. Oh, there
A
you go.
little lower.
Yeah. So here's Orcrest Lane. Here's a railroad right away. The roadway is not expected to be used at any point. The applicant at one point spoke with the city about it and then engaged me to proceed with doing a petition for abandonment. So we have submitted that application. Next slide. This is just a picture of the deed of the record of survey that was filed in support of a deed of dedication. So this right away was deeded to the city of Reno in 2014 or so as part of, a greater dedication of some roads up in that area. We'll go to the next slide. As you can see, the existing right of way is undeveloped, dead ends. It's been a bit of a nuisance with people driving through or walking through, heading towards that railroad right away, where there is really no public access intended for that area. Next slide. This is just looking down from the top. You can see the residential development there on the west side, and their fences, and like I said, just dirt and undeveloped. So the applicant's property adjacent to this is zoned industrial. They expect to finalize the petition of amendment and absorb this property into their site, and at some point proceed with development under industrial zoning. Because this property was deeded to the city, they're going to be required to purchase it at a price. So the city will look at market value, apply a reduction because it's right away, and then the applicant will pay that price to the city upon recordation of the order of abandonment. To be thorough, there are two other abutting parcels on the west side of the two, if you can go back. The two residential properties there, they do have a right to exercise their right to their half of that right of way. We're currently discussing that with both of those property owners, whether they're going to proceed to do that. If they do, then their half it's abandoned and into their property as single family zoning. So, and with that in mind, I outlined some screening requirements. If anyone had any concerns regarding that, if you go to the last slide. The comments we've gotten, and even from the neighbors, their concerns are mostly with the industrial butting up against single family there. So I've kind of just outlined the screening that's going to be required for the industrial development. Entire front yard will have to be landscaped. For this industrial development, next to that residential zone property, they'll have to do things like locating their activity areas away from the residential. They can't have any signs facing the residential. They're not allowed to bleed light over the property line. Noise has to be limited. At night, where it's under 49 decibels, which is about the same as like ambient noise in a quiet suburb or like a conversation at home. During the day, it's also limited to 65 decibels, the equivalent of like office noise or driving in your car at 60 miles an hour, something like that. No odor can pass over there, from any kind of industrial use. And then parking, loading, working areas have to be, either screened or situated away from the property. I'm going to note there is no project in mind at this point. We're just talking about property and abandonment. So, with that, I'll end my presentation, open it up for any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. To my dais, any questions? Anybody have anything?
John Briscoe, Ward 4. What if the city said, no, we're not going to let it be abandoned? I've never seen something like this before. So I'm just kind of curious as to, is this screening requirement? Is this part of this application?
No, this is general zoning. And again, Ryan Sims for the record. We wouldn't get this far in the process if the city wasn't open to entertaining a petition for abandonment. We would probably submit the application and staff would inform us that, it's not going to move forward because A, the city wants to utilize the right of way. B, it's needed for a fire access. C, there's some future development that will have to utilize it. D, maybe there's utilities that need to pass through there at some point that we're not aware of. All those things have been vetted out by us and by staff.
Okay, I'm just curious. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Derek, John? No? All right. Any public? No? Hey, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, B 3-1.
3-3.
Be
I'm not
three,
gonna
three.
try and abandon any streets or anything. Or if I do, at least Brian can yell at me for not getting the permit. Mr. Chair, board members, Councilman Lieber, anything. For the record, my name is Kenny Brown with CFA. I'm representing the applicant, Ray and Ray Foods, for a request for a conditional use permit for reestablishment of the use. Will be heard at the Planning Commission meeting on May 17th of this year. I thought it's listed as May 17th on the,
I moved it, I'm not there.
sorry.
For the
And
record, Dave Snellgrove, who chimed in.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll let Dave do all the talking now. The parcels, it's for 2400 Valley Road, which is located at, next screen, please. Up near the university. It's adjacent to the Feather River rail line and where it crosses Valley Road. It's about a 1.5 acre property. You can see the subject property there. I should have darkened up the arrow. My apologies. Can you just skip to the next slide, please? This is a historical view of the area. You can see starting in the bottom left, this structure, this building has been around for quite a few years. It was built in 1953. We progressed to the top one, which is 2004, building structure is still there. And our most recent photo of the last 2 years, in the bottom right, where it's still there, still lasting. Next slide, please. The existing master plan for the area is suburban mixed use. It's a relatively new master plan designation, which only came about with the 2017 master plan that the city of Reno passed. And next slide, please. The existing zoning is MF 30, and it's also surrounded by the mixed employment, the pink colors that you can see. This was at one point an industrial area. And next slide, please. I guess I have the better from now. These are photos of the site. You can see it's the construction is rather old building, lawn materials, the signage you can see painted on the wall was actually the original business on site. It lasted up until about 2010, according to our business license research. But you can see it's still a very functional industrial style building. It's perfect for the use that Rain Ray Foods is looking to do, which would be a distribution center for food. Next slide, please. Project request is the allowance to reestablish the previous existing legally established use on the parcel. In this case, it will be warehouse or distribution center for food. It's a small food distributorship here in town. They're looking to move from their location, their old location at Spice Island Drive to a much larger facility. And then next slide. And any questions from the board, from Councilwoman Ebert? And if I cannot answer it tonight, I will get back to the board as a whole with an answer.
Okay, Corey Bond for the record, Mr. Brown. I'm curious because that's right around the corner from friend's house, and so I grew up in that neighborhood. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I thought there was a company working out of that building now. Is that not true?
I do not know. I've only made site visits on a Sunday, so
Okay. I
it's
mean,
possible.
I'm just curious, because when you said Valley Road, I was curious because as you can see, there's so much student
Right.
apartments going out, so I just was curious.
Yeah,
So,
there's lots of, I kind of thought going up, when I took site photos, I went up on a Sunday theory that all that construction would be gone.
Right,
And I've driven by, I'm sure you've driven by there, and they're blocking half of Valley Road, trying to move the materials into the project that's being built to the north of this.
oh, yeah, that intersection right there is so hard because you have a flashing light, but kids can't be seen.
Right.
And I've been very close to a couple and I said something and the city said, no, we can't put a flashing light there. So, yeah, so, okay. Okay, sorry, folks. Anybody on my dais have any questions?
Councilmember Ebert, for the record. So this is an existing building, you're just gonna
Existing
use what's already there?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So it's it's technically an infill development. We're
Okay.
gonna reuse a existing structure.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. 3.3,
sir.
I'll remember that now.
Yeah, 3. Thank you.
And with that, Ms. Abigail, I believe we're on D, or on C.
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anybody have any reports or announcements that need to be made? Or future agenda items?
On C first, Mr. Chair. So let's open C, close C.
Okay.
I'm unsure if this is a C or a D. So if I start speaking, you say,
Okay.
the next one.
Okay.
So I have two things. One, I made a public comment of City of Reno budget meeting. I put in a public comment for the budget regarding the redistricting for Ward 6. This was when SB 12 was still up for consideration of the legislature. My question for the budget for public comment was when the City of Reno was going to have transparency in telling this public of number one, what department was going to be in charge of it, what the cost was going to be for staff or any studies that need to be made. I know this a couple of years ago, we've got the census data. But what that involved,
what type of committee meetings that our council person could represent us, since every single ward is possibly going to be changed. We want to have council representation. And when would the city going to be transparent in having an agenda item or something to tell us how, if SB 12 not get passed, how it's going to affect us going from 5 wards to 6 wards, which is wonderful for more increased representation. So I did that then because I was wondering, well, how much is it going to cost? We've known about it since 2017, and we got to get this done this year. By January, we're mandated. So the city better have a plan in place. If you've got a plan, then tell us. So now that the legislature has decided not to pursue SB 12, and the city has to, within the next 6 months, have our entire city go from 5 wards to 6, when are we going to find out about the plan? So this is where I don't know if it's a comment or a question.
So for the record, Corey Bond, what we can do is we can put it on a future agenda item and have Abigail.
So
look at it.
we're gonna close C. We're gonna go to future agenda items. We're gonna open D.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just saying.
in regards to your request about it being a future agenda item, I'm gonna defer and say no at this point, just because our bill just officially died on Friday. So we're starting that as of Friday evening. And who is we? So they're coming up with a team. We're kind of following what happened in 2017 in regards to that. So once we have our ducks in a row, there will be a public process where everyone will be notified. I think at this point, we want to get through budget because that will dictate as well the funds and where it needs to go. There hasn't been any changes to the budget, but after that, there will be a public process, same thing, map drawings. I know it's a big deal and we just went through it, collecting the census data and all that stuff. So I don't have an answer for you because it just died Friday and our team officially started everything as soon as it died. So they are still working on that. Once I have an update, I will give you an update on the staff liaison, but I don't want to agendize it because there might not be an update at that point.
So Catherine, you can follow up. So I think this is where it's important that we have a few people here, but we have many neighbors, is that the city just started it and they've known about it for years. And that is the problem, and the problem that the city tried to actually stop the will of the people and the previous council and many, many meetings, hours and hours of meeting and public comment for increased voter representation. So now your staff, you're now stuck with a problem that should have started a long time ago. And what I want to make a point is how we get in public comment that we want our council person represented on any committee that the mayor, the vice mayor, the department, whoever's the city manager. We have had too many city committees that do not allow new council people to have an active process, but then they are asked to vote on something. We want to know how we get our council person. I can only care about Ward 4 right now. Ward 5, sorry, they're gonna have to deal about fighting for their council person. I want my council representative on as many committee meetings as possible that she can handle. I know you don't want to be on every committee, I'm sorry, Shitty, but this one is important.
Yeah.
Where we districting the lines, and you don't have to to be on it.
No, it's important to me too. No, yeah.
And to speak to that, you council persons, people will have their meetings and their voice heard, and they have a lot of input in how that goes down from my understanding. Again, I wasn't here when they did the redistricting process in 2017. So it could be a new process. There are new people, so it will be different. We've seen a lot of growth, so.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen Egan. So my second question, and I'm done talking, I'm sorry, Corey, I really am. My second question are council appointees to committees. So as a NAB, you can vote, but you also have other committees that you as a Ward 4 council person can represent. You get one person to represent. So my specific question for an appointee is for the Planning Commission. There is a person named Arthur Nunez that I don't know anything about when his appointment was. He was appointed as a Ward 4 appointee. And I would like to know what the term is. Each ward for their appointee has a different term. So what I would like to know is when that current term appointee is up, for then we can make a notice for our local of other applicants. Arthur certainly can reapply, but we haven't been good about notifying when there are open vacancies or a term is ending
Yeah, getting the word out.
and other people to be able to apply. So having that notice in advance, the planning commission to me is the most important commission in our area to have representation of someone who's going to be active and someone who's going to come to the NAB and tell us what's going on, to make sure that they are representing what the public needs. And so I'd just like to have a little bit more heads up so we can let the public know of anyone who is interested in perhaps applying for the next term that you now will be able to appoint.
And I can get you that information. I think we're pulling it up right now in regards to his term limit. I do want to state that you can always apply for any commission. Your applications are good for a year. So people can apply now and that application will be good until their term is over, but they are always accepting applications. It may not necessarily be like the term isn't up, so they can't be appointed just yet. But we can get you that information in regards to term limits. And I know that there is a notification process to the appointee when their term is up, because I think some of you guys should be getting that notice soon as well. But you are more than always welcome to apply for all of those and either be an alternate, well, not for planning specifically, but they're always taking applications. So yes, but term limit, we'll get to you and I can send that information to them. Perfect. Awesome.
So regarding future agenda items, I'd like to, Jared Souter, future agenda items. Last year, we had an update from Parks and Recreation for things that were happening in North Valleys. Love to have an update on Mayor's Park and other parks area, what are some capital planning for the next couple of years as we see growth here in the North Valleys. The other one I was just thinking about was Public Works and maybe update where we stand on sewer or wastewater, the fees and things that are happening for projects that they were bringing forward last year or a year and a half.
Okay. Noted.
Corey Bond, for the record, Harry that was here, she is now the Director of Public Works. So if you could reach out to her and ask her if she could come back or have somebody from her part come, that would be great.
Perfect.
Okay, Jared.
Sorry. Have we heard from NDOT as to when they might be able to visit us?
I've reached out. No response yet. So.
Okay, my last thing, well, my second to last thing is public comment. Anybody? Come on, guys. No? Okay. All right.
I got one.
Okay.
Tom Hillstead,
Thank you.
and 911 University Way. It's more of a question. I see in the city of Reno painting buildings, bowling alley, wall. Is there any way we can find out how much, is that taxpayers' money to pay for that guy painting that wall?
I'll get your contact information and get you the exact answer because art is very confusing from my understanding. It's very confusing. Yeah, it's funded a different way and there's certain requirements.
Guess what I'm saying? Earlier I spoke and I get nervous and I probably wasn't real clear, but I see buildings getting painted. I see painting on pathways and stuff. Folks, the streets are really, they're I call them alligator breakout pushout spots. They've been there. Water comes and gets in. And they get bigger as traffic comes, drives over it, and time goes on. If you don't fix it, more rain comes, more snow comes. I'm more concerned about safely driving the streets than looking at a building with murals and paintings on it. To me, it's the building's nice. Somebody paid for the building originally, and then the city comes and allows it to be painted. Get over it. Take care of the infrastructure. The road is the infrastructure. Bowling alley being painted on the outside wall. I work with guys and they go, what in the world is going on? How much did that cost? So I guess I'm probably tight. I just care more about the streets. Put
put the money on the road. And the surface where we can, we don't have to swerve over here and swerve over there. Okay? Thank you, I'm done.
Okay,
Thank you, Tom.
For the record, Corey Bond, Tom Lynch, he said, just make sure you have your contact information and Abigail, like she said, we issue that information.
Okay, thanks.
Captain Egan, and just in response, thank you so much, because our safety and our road maintenance, the budget for that is incredibly important, which Megan and the council people are working on. The pie for our road maintenance is not enough, and that money needs to be increased. And we need to speed up the time that they go to the different areas to get it done and not wait every 3 years to work on a certain part. That part of the budget is set with the city that they're working on right now. The money that is used for art murals is a separate, has nothing to do with the money. So the money for art and painting is not taking any money away from the maintenance. The real issue is the maintenance money needs to be owed. Art grants that is separate funding. Doesn't matter. It does not, it's not affecting our streets.
That for the roads, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, can I say just one thing? Go ahead. Is there a way of finding out what the street department budget is presently? And what it was 3 years ago? And 5 years ago?
Well, these are things, Megan Ebert for the record. These are things that I'm working on, and this is why RTC came down to give this update tonight. I believe Shelby emailed me, and sorry, I haven't responded yet. And part of the reason why I hadn't was because working with RTC and Terry Kosky that came down here tonight. The reason why they're working on these widening Military Road and putting in these lights is because this is a probably my top priority as a new council person. Is our roads and road safety and the school flashers that are getting put up. This will be my first accomplishment as a city council person, because it is so important to me. So I can't snap my fingers and have this happen overnight, but just so that you know, this is my top priority, and I am pushing for this. And this is why RTC is at our NAB tonight. And we are talking about these projects, and we are moving the timelines up, because I am advocating for our ward specifically every chance I get. And Jared, to your point about the traffic the other day, my husband spent over 2 hours driving our kids to school that day. And he called me after 9 and said, I got our kids to school. I found a shortcut. It was on a dirt road. What are we doing? Right? Like, I feel it. I live here too. Your comments about, I believe it was about Buck, the 3-way stop in your email. Was that your email about that too? I get so many emails about that. Yeah. The 3-way stop. Yeah. I mean, our ward is just riddled. I mean, take your picks, right? So I am absolutely on board with what you're saying. I am fighting for us at the city level. I'm fighting for us at the RTC level and NDOT level. There's so many different layers that have to work together, and I'm trying to coordinate all of them, because this is so important. I'm in it too. My kids are in it too. They go to Coral Academy over off the Valley, where we're going to be putting more flashers in. So I'm going to be talking to you about where you said they couldn't put flashers in, because I want to find out more about that. So these are my top priorities, because we have the most open space. So this is where they want to put the houses and the warehouses and the commercial. Like, that's just facts, right? They don't have the room in downtown to put these things in. So my priority is to make sure that we're building up the infrastructure that we need. We have people that already live here. We need to make sure that we have the roads to accommodate people that already live here. And if they're going to keep pushing more development out here, we have to be able to have the roads to accommodate that and make sure we make up for these shortcomings. And all I can tell you is, in the meantime, anytime you see those alligator pothole things, please submit those to Reno Direct, because unless the city knows about them, they're not going to just cruise around and look for things to do. They have a laundry list of things to do. So submit those to Reno Direct. Anytime you see anything, that's the fastest way to get things done. And they'll send you status updates. And I send things into Reno Direct myself when I'm driving around, and they'll respond to me and say, hey, that's not something we work on. That's RTC or NDOT. Like, when I see signs that have been driven over on the freeway on ramp and off ramp, right? Like how often do those signs get sheared off? It's ridiculous. They put them up and 3 days later, they're gone. So, I mean, it's just something it will never be done. It just won't. It's just something we will continually have to remind the city and speak up. And I know so much of the time, especially in our ward, we feel like we're not being heard, so we just give up. You know, we have to make sure that we keep speaking up for our ward, not just, you know, to our neighbors complaining, but speaking up to the city, you know, using those resources that we have, which is Reno Direct is the most efficient way to get help out there. And that's something I'm learning as a brand new city council person. When I get those emails, I'm trying to figure out who to reach out to get stuff done the fastest. And the information I'm getting is Reno Direct, because then the city has a log of that and it puts things in a queue so it can get done faster. So that's probably not the answer that you want to get as far as timelines, but just know that it's a top priority for me too. And I'm doing everything I can to get these things moving forward. So.
Okay, Corey Bond for the record. I said this last month and I'll reiterate it. We lost the air races, folks, because, and this is not on you, because this was prior to you coming on board, but the council decided to allow these projects out here. And from what I heard, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard was because of all the development that has been allowed out here is the reason we lost the races. And anybody that knows me, you guys have known me long enough, I am not one to criticize the city of Reno. I try to play devil's advocate whenever I can, but let's face it, we've said this, and I won't go into it again because I did last month, but basically I said this before. We don't have the infrastructure. Again, it's not on you. It's just, and something somebody said once is there's only one vote that the council person for this ward, whether it's you or somebody else, they're one of the dais. And you know, you said it a few minutes ago, you can't snap your fingers. I want to know if your wand needs to be recharged, but anyway, but anyway, so again, I won't reiterate it, but you know, we just don't have what we need. And again, playing devil's advocate, we do the best we can. And I say we because technically, as a member of this board, I am a part of the city. So I say we, and we just have to do what we can. So, okay, with that, if there's no other comments, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Somebody.
So moved, John Briscoe.
Okay, John Briscoe, and all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Thank you all, and we'll see you next month.